In the heart of Houston, a city of diversity and resilience, a story unfolds, a story of unsung heroes, visionaries, and trailblazers, a story of Latinos rising in the digital age. From doctors saving lives in our hospitals to the artists painting the future and the entrepreneurs building legacies, these voices are leading the way, breaking boundaries and redefining what it means to be Latino in America. Our culture, our stories, our people, each one with a journey that touches the heart and inspires the soul. From the pages of history to the screens of today, VIVA Magazine Live continues its legacy of uplifting the Latino community and telling the stories that need to be heard. VIVA Magazine Live isn't just a show, it's a movement, a celebration of Latino excellence, and a call to action for the next generation to fulfill their hopes and dreams and become an active part of the Latino voice. Join us as we tell the stories that inspire, unite, and elevate. Together we can ensure these voices are heard loud and clear. We invite you to be part of something bigger. Support VIVA Magazine Live and make history with us. Support the vision and invest in our community. Hola, Houston. Welcome to VIVA Magazine Live. I'm your host, Blanca Blanco, and today we have a very special guest who has been with LULAC for over 57 years, and he's going to tell us all about preserving Latino history. So stay tuned. Welcome back. And today we're diving deep into something that's at the heart of who we are as a community, our history, our legacy, and our stories. Here in Houston, the Latino community is vibrant, thriving, and most importantly, resilient. But how do we make sure that our history, our contributions, our struggles, and our victories are remembered? That's what keeps our legacy alive for the next generation, and that's exactly what Mr. David Contreras will be talking about today. He's someone whose life work is all about preserving Latino history. David Contreras is the LULAC National Historian who's been a member of LULAC for over 57 years. We'll be talking about his work, the importance of documenting our community stories, and the journey that has brought him here. Let's take a break for a moment and let's hear from our sponsors. David, welcome to VIVA Magazine Live. It's an honor to have you here today. You know, preserving history isn't just about looking at the past. It's about understanding our identity. It's about ensuring our future. Tell us a little bit about how you became a historian for LULAC and why it's so important to you.
Thank you, Blanca. It's an honor to be here. I became involved with preserving LULAC's history about 11 years ago when several LULAC councils were engaged to create an event to honor the 50th anniversary of when John F. Kennedy visited with LULAC at the Rice Hotel. And this was the first time in recorded history that a sitting U.S. president had addressed a Latino group. And my job was to find people who had attended the event in 1963, to find some of the entertainers, and then to create a website with some historical documents, such as some photos, some news clippings.
Did you find some of those folks?
Yes. What happened was that my uncle had told me several years back when I was a child that he had a collection at the Houston Public Library. And so I went to the Houston Public Library and was able to have them pull the collection. But what I found was that there were about 100 collections of Mexican-American people, and most of these collections had been sitting in boxes for 30 or 40 years, and they had never been digitized. One of the things that we wanted to do was to find some of these nuggets, these historical documents.
They were nuggets, weren't they? Yeah.
They certainly were. And to digitize them and to put them into this a website.
Yes.
And so my uncle's information led to finding all of this history that had just been sitting there and nobody knew about it.
Right. That's right. There was. Well, LULAC has such a rich history. What are some of the pivotal moments that you've uncovered in your work that has really helped shape the Latino community in the United States?
Okay, LULAC was founded 95 years ago in 1929 when 3 organizations, other civil rights, Mexican-American civil rights organizations, wanted to unify, to create more strength in what they were doing. And many of the founders of these organizations were World War I veterans. Many of them were very educated. They were mostly middle-class individuals who were fighting for civil rights. They were fighting against segregation. They wanted educational opportunities. And some of the violence that was occurring against people of Mexican descent. And so in 1929, they merged, I believe it was February 17th, to form an organization called LULAC. It was formed in Corpus Christi, and they elected their first president, which was Ben Garza. Over the years, they accomplished a number of things. In 1930, were able to desegregate many public places like swimming pools and movie theaters and cafeterias, you name it.
Fountains too.
Yeah.
I remember fountains. There had different 2 fountains, one for us and one for them.
And oftentimes we were not sure, as people of Mexican descent, which one to go to, whether it was black or white.
That's right. Well, we were kids, right? You know, we didn't know the difference.
The second thing that occurred in LULAC that was significant is that in 1940, people of Mexican descent were classified as white on the census.
Oh, okay.
And that was a big thing for LULAC because LULAC has always been a rather conservative organization. It stressed assimilation, it stressed citizenship, it stressed being able to speak English. And some of the more conservative leaders in LULAC stressed not having an accent because they believed that you would have a better opportunity to succeed in the business world.
And to be able to assimilate.
Yes, assimilation.
Yep.
Then probably the next substantial item that occurred was in 1945, where in California, someone challenged segregation in the school system. I believe it was called Mendez versus Westminster. They actually won the case. The ruling was that it was illegal to segregate children of Mexican descent. But I just remember there was another case that occurred in 1931 called Salta Tieta versus Del Rio. And that was a case that was actually won in the district courts, but was reversed at the appeals courts.
Well, that's interesting.
And so that wasn't successful. What's interesting about that is 3 of the leaders of LULAC who were attorneys. It was J.T. Canales, Alfonso Parales, and M.C. Gonzalez. They were all attorneys, and they were the first 3 Latino attorneys in the state of Texas. They were all involved in that court case.
So, David, what you're telling me is that LULAC has been in the civil rights fight for Latinos for many, many years. And we're still in that fight. Can you tell me what fights we are going through today?
Well, today we have the same problem.
Yeah.
It's 4 or 5 generations later, but we have a number of immigrants that are coming to the United States. They're being placed in our school system. Yeah, my wife has been a witness to this. She was a registrar at Aldine Independent School
Your wife,
District.
Millie. I know her very well.
And she worked with students and parents as a translator. And what she saw was that many of the students that were in the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade spoke very, very little English. And so she had a hard time understanding how they could succeed.
Right.
And there were no bilingual programs. As a matter of fact, through our LULAC Council, we tried to start a program to read books that were bilingual once a week for an hour a day during her lunchtime to help them. And the program was cut because they said it did not follow the guidelines,
the guidelines
of their program.
Yeah. David and I took a trip to the Houston Public Library, and we're going to show you that right now. So David, I want to ask you a question since I'm interviewing the National LULAC Historian. Give me your opinion of VIVA magazine, because you are the expert on Latino history.
You know, when we met about 3 years ago,
Yes.
that parade,
Yes.
first parade here for the De los Muertos.
Yes.
You know, you told me about the magazine, and then about a year later, I did some research, and we met again.
Right.
And at that point, I told you that it was probably, this is one of the most incredible collections here at the Houston Public Library, because the stories in the magazine covered so many topics, from politics to education and health and music and art, literature.
Yes.
And it covered the Latino leaders in the city, many of which have passed away, like
Yes.
Felix Fraga.
Yes.
And
Rumencio Reyes.
yes,
Tacho Mendiola.
absolutely.
Champ Fraga. Yes.
And so we were thrilled that we were able to work together with the Houston Public Library leadership to get this digitized, and now it's out there for people to look at.
Yeah.
And with the hopes that we can do some outreach and make people aware that this incredible collection exists.
Yes.
They can go out there and enjoy it.
Yeah. Thank you very much, and your opinion is like gold. I mean, you are the expert on Latino history here in Houston, and I just want to thank you. My idea back then was just to highlight our community, just to put on the cover unsung heroes that are really doing something in the community. And we just wanted to, my goal was just to focus and portray the Hispanic community in a good light. And that was my concern when I got this started. And I never did I think that it would reach to this level. So I am just honored, and thank you for your opinion. I really appreciate that.
Oh, you're most welcome. And the digitization and archiving of this collection is a segue to what you're doing right now.
Yes.
To bring VIVA magazine live here and to the year 2024.
Yes. Thank you very much, David. David, what we just saw at the library, those archives, those publications, those are tangible pieces of history. When you look at the work LULAC has done, what are some of the stories and events that you feel need to be told more often, or what has been overlooked?
I think one of the major stories that has not been told is why people joined LULAC.
Yeah.
And initially they joined LULAC because there was such a significant need to fight violence against Mexican Americans, and to fight for integration, educational opportunities. And LULAC actually did very, very well until World War II began, and then they became dormant until about 1945. 1945, many Latinos from World War II expected equality, and because they felt that they were equal fighting along.
And they were.
They're Anglo veterans. And when they came home, they found that that wasn't the case.
Right.
What stimulated the growth in LULAC at that time by the World War II veterans is when Mercadio Garcia, a hero, World War II hero, in a fight that occurred where he was actually injured. And even while he was injured, he was able to fight to save the lives of several of his fellow veterans.
Yeah.
For these heroic efforts, in August of 1945, President Truman awarded him the Congressional Medal of Honor. LULAC was very proud of that.
Yep.
He was in the newspaper, he was in the LULAC News, but then 2 weeks after he was honored, he was in a cafe in Sugar Land, Texas. He was refused service. He got angry, he got into a fight, he was beaten with a baseball bat.
That did not cause his death, did it?
No.
Okay.
He died, I believe, 1972.
Okay.
This was 1945. This event got national exposure. A journalist by the name of Walter Winchell, had this broadcast on his national radio program, and LULAC came to his aid. The charges was later dropped because of all of the exposure that it got. But this is what caused someone like my uncle to join LULAC, and for which he was a member for 70 years.
Wow, that's incredible.
Or this incentive to be in LULAC existed until about 1965. What I recently learned that most people don't know is that after 1965, you had the signage of the Civil Rights Bill.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So many of the LULACers thought, hey, this is not our incentive anymore.
Yeah.
But what happened was, with these bills that President Johnson put in place, there was government money available to create programs. And so programs were created such as Project Head Start,
Right.
which is associated with Sesame Street. You had projects such as SARE, which was initiated by LULAC. They actually had the first office here in Houston at the clubhouse. That became a national program that helps tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people with job training and placement. You had another program that was called MALDEF. It's Mexican American Defense Legal Service. And then you had another program which still exists today called LULAC National Education Service Center, which provides millions of dollars in scholarships every year.
That's right.
So those existed until about the 1980s, and then LULAC got involved in affordable housing for seniors. And so that's what I meant by funding from the government for a lot of projects and provided job opportunities and some benefits for the community. The last 30 or 40 years, we're not sure what that incentive is to join LULAC, and we're struggling with it right now.
Yeah.
We're thinking that LULAC is old.
So what do you think, because you were getting into it, is the biggest challenge in getting younger generations to engage with LULAC and preserve this history?
You know, that's an excellent question, and we've been giving that a lot of thought.
Yeah.
But LULAC's membership has not been strong in the beginning. It was maybe 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 strong in the 1940s, 50s. I think it grew to about 6,000 in 1980. Today, we show a membership of about 100, 200,000, but many of those members are what are called e-members. They're members who don't pay a dues.
How many chapters are there in LULAC in the United States?
There are approximately 450 chapters. We have 8,000 regular members. We have a few hundred members that we call lifetime members or associate members who are not affiliated with a council. And then we've got I think it may be as high as 200,000 e-members. E-members are mostly people who sign up to be a member and to receive news. But are not really active LULAC
in the
members.
chapters.
Yes.
So let's say, David, that I want to become a member. Where do I start?
The best way to do that is that if you know someone in LULAC, you can give them a call. If you don't know anyone in LULAC, you can go to their website, which is lulac.org, and you go to a section for membership, and you can drill down to find LULAC councils. And in this LULAC website page, you could find the names of the presidents of a council in your state and in your city. And now, you can call them directly.
David, just a question occurred to me. You don't have to be Latino to join LULAC, right?
No, it's open.
It's open to everybody. So if anybody wants to, and that feels that they want to join in the fight for civil rights for Latinos, they can join as well.
Yep.
So,
but the mission of LULAC is to promote the well-being and to help people of Latino descent in the areas of education and health and employment and so forth.
Very good work. Very, very good work, David, that LULAC is doing, as well as yourself in documenting all this history. But, you know, I just want to remind the viewers out there that, you know, Latinos are not just in Texas. They're coming from all over South America, Central America. I mean, so Latinos are everywhere. So they are also a part of our culture, and they will always be, of course, not just because when we talk about Texas, we always talk about Mexican Americans, but we have, you know, El Salvadorians, Hondurans, South Americans. So we have Latinos everywhere around the country. You know, we just want to invite anyone that wants to be a part of LULAC to please join a chapter or find someone who is involved in LULAC, and they will guide you on how to become a member.
Yeah, inclusivity is very, very important to LULAC. We realize that the Latino communities in the United States and the territories has become much more diverse. When LULAC was first established in 1929, about 95 to 98% of the Latino population was of Mexican-American descent.
Back then.
Today, I believe the next major nationality is Puerto Rican and Cuban.
Yeah, and I left that out, Cuba and Puerto Rico. I mean, they're a major part of our organization as well.
And as a matter of fact, our previous executive director and CEO was from Central America. And our current CEO and director is Colombian and Peruvian.
I am so happy to see that LULAC has expanded and included so many more Latinos outside of the Texas area. You know, even though LULAC started in Texas, in Corpus Christi, I don't think LULAC realized how big it grew or how big it was going to grow at the time when they got this started back in Corpus Christi. Did they even have that vision?
Well, I think that the scope of what LULAC has been involved in has grown enormously.
Yes.
You know, as we talked about earlier, it started off with fighting for civil rights and desegregating and creating opportunity.
Right.
Now we've grown to include voting rights and fighting for human rights for immigrants. Now for parity and equitability for a number of different things, from job opportunities in the music industry, in the movie industry, in the corporate boardrooms, in the nonprofit boardrooms, in education and so forth. So there's still, we're a long way from throwing in the towel, and there are a number of things that we need to continue to fight for. So the scope has grown and will continue to grow.
Of course, and that's incredible. I just think that the work LULAC is doing, and you know, if you want to get involved in something that really makes a difference, LULAC organization is a place where you can get all those activities on your calendar, and they do have a lot of activities around town. So David, let's talk a little bit about your personal connection to this, okay? So what inspired you to take on the role of historian for LULAC? Was there a moment in your life when you realized how important it was to document history?
Yes, there are a couple of things that I need to mention. First of all, my family has been involved in LULAC for almost 90 years. My grandfather, who was a blacksmith, and had a shop located exactly where the aquarium is located in downtown Houston.
Really? That's interesting.
Joined LULAC in 1935.
Yes.
And he was the first person to chair a fundraiser for LULAC Council 60.
Yep.
That was on the paternal side of my family, my grandfather, Florencio Contreras. 10 years later, my uncle, which would be the next generation, he was the brother of my mother, joined LULAC shortly after Macario Garcia event, and he was a member for 70 years. Then the third generation was when my brother, Mitchell Contreras, myself, and my sister joined LULAC. We're still involved in LULAC. We're in the same council, 688. My brother was legal counsel for LULAC district. He was a district director. My sister was a president.
Yes.
My wife is now the current president of that.
So you have
council.
A family of LULACers.
Yep.
Yes.
Then my daughter is also a member. She's the fourth generation.
Yes.
And she was the deputy district director of a few years ago. The fifth generation is my grandchild, Maya Swartz, or Contreras Swartz. She is now 14, maybe 15 years old, but when she was 13 years old, I engaged her to look at our archives, and she's an artist, and so in digital video.
That's what they do nowadays.
And so she created a video documentary of an event, a little school of the 400, along with 3 other GT students. And more recently, she created a 1-minute documentary of John Kennedy's visit with LULAC, which is being played at the 6th Floor Museum in Dallas, Texas.
That's awesome.
Which is the building in which John Kennedy was shot at and killed.
Thank you again for being here and sharing your incredible work with us. Is there anything else you want to say that you want to talk about before we leave?
Yes, I think that there's 3 additional significant events that I think that are very, very important. One is in 1957, a program was created to help non-English speaking students succeed in passing from the 1st to the 2nd grade, because the failure rate for that group was about 70%. And Felix Tejadina, who was the national president of LULAC, funded a program a radio program to do that, and a young lady by the name of Isabel there convinced him to do in-person classes.
Yes.
She had this passion to do this because when she was in the 1st grade, she didn't speak any English. She had to use the restroom. She had an accident. It's real embarrassing to her.
Of course.
So she made a promise that she would learn English. She did. And one day, while reading a magazine of what LULAC was doing, she contacted Felix Tejadina. She was in Ganado, Texas. He was in Houston, and she sold him on her idea. He brought her, he set up a school there. She became the first teacher. This led to growing this school to 13 cities.
They taught several words, right?
400 words.
400 words, and they learned these words because these were essential words to learn in the English language.
And 49 out of 50 students out of her first class passed from the 1st to the 2nd grade.
That is awesome.
And then this is a program that we consider to be the precursor to Project Head Start.
Right.
Another significant event was in 1954 when there was a fellow who committed a murder. He was sentenced to life in prison, and LULAC lawyers and a fellow by the name of Gus Garcia, who's a hero, a LULAC hero, and John J. Hodera, who was a Council 60 president, and a couple of other attorneys took this case, and because they had found out that in the county where this case was handled, there had not been a Latino that had sat on a jury, petty jury or grand jury, for like 25 years.
Wow.
And so the case went all the way to the Supreme Court, and they won. It addressed the 14th Amendment, which was, but I think it had due process for our rights, our rights as citizens. And this kind of laid the foundation, another case that laid the foundation for Brown versus the Board of Education. Same concept. And Gus Garcia, who actually made the presentation to the Supreme Court, and he got an extra 15 minutes because he was so dynamic.
Yes.
And this court decision occurred a week or two before Brown versus Board of Education. And the next thing, which is really major, is that in 1964 or 5, my uncle Ernest Aguirre made a motion to create a job placement and training program, which became Project SARE. The first office was here in Houston at the clubhouse, and that has expanded to a major, major program. Those 5 of those items that I've talked about, the Mercadio Garcia, the Kennedy visit, the Bastrop Delgado school segregation, Hernandez versus Texas Supreme Court case, the Project SARE, those should all be in our history books. That is American history, Texas history, and Latino history.
Right.
And so our goal is
and it is there. That history is not in our Texas history books for students.
It is not. It is not. We're digitizing that, and even though it's digitized, much of this is at the Houston Public Library. The issue that we have is that nobody knows that these archives exist. When educators find out about it, they become very, very excited because they can use this in a classroom environment.
They can.
But our ultimate goal is to get this history, this rich Latino history, into a classroom environment.
That's right. Well, I'm with you on that, David. We need to get it into the classroom environment so our young and future generations to learn of what a significant contribution our Latino leaders have done. So, David, the preservation of Latino history is essential to our community's strength. Don't you agree? Obviously.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. So here we are, and we're so grateful for your dedication and commitment. So thank you. Thank you for being here, David. And to all of you watching at home, remember, our history is alive. It's in the stories that we tell, the art that we create, and the legacies we leave behind. Together, we can ensure that the voices of our community are heard for generations to come. Make sure to join us next time on Viva Magazine Live as we continue to celebrate the stories that matter. Hasta luego, Houston.